Hey, Celsador here. By far, my favorite anything of 2025 was It Welcome to Derry. I'm a big fan. I was a big fan of it, Chapter 1. I watched it opening night. I saw a balloon tied to a sewer grate on my walk home. Peak stuff, peak life. Chapter 2 definitely lost the plot, wasting half of its runtime on unnecessary flashbacks and pointless jump scares. And my god, that runtime. But overall, I am a fan of the world of it. I did buy the book. Keyword buy. I don't know what I was thinking. I'm not reader adore. But as a fan of the franchise and watching every single breakdown you could find online about this franchise, I was really excited to hear they were making this show and excited to see more of this universe canonically explored on the screen. My excitement was put in the right place because my god, did Welcome to Derry deliver. It had start to finish, the character work was strong, the horror, the scares, the intensity, it was felt, it was really good stuff. Loved the whole thing through. About halfway through the season is when Volume 1 of Stranger Things dropped. Why did they cut it up like that? I have no idea. Anyway, it's when Volume 1 dropped. I watched the first 3 episodes and I'm like, you know what? It had me excited for what was to come. So I watched Welcome to Peak. I watched the first 3 episodes of Stranger Things and I was riding this wave of peak cinema and excitement to see how the finale of Stranger Things would conclude. Volume 2 was all right. It was genuinely solid. I don't really have any complaints, any notes, except for some scenes that went on a little longer than they should have, if you know what I mean. But the internet wasn't wrong when it said Volume 3 was dog water. My God, what a terrible finale. I feel so bad for anyone who entered the new year by watching a $250 million finale in the cinema that wasn't written when they started filming it. What a waste of time, money, energy, and a decade's worth of storytelling build up. What I'm getting at here, the thought that crossed my mind that inspired this video, besides, already making a video about Pennywise versus Vecna in a fight, you should go watch that, by the way. But the thought that inspired this video was when watching Stranger Things, just thinking, how on earth does a show that takes place in the past on its timeline genuinely got me more worried for the characters, more worried that the villain is going to win, when we've seen him die, mind you, in the future. I think he's going to win. How did Stranger Things waffle this so badly in their big finale that they've been hyping up on social media? It's going to be so dark, so scary. How does a show that takes place in the past on its timeline have better stakes than your season finale? That's a dumb question. We know how. They gave us a documentary on how. Thanks, Duffers. So yeah, I'm going to do my best to kind of compare these shows side by side. We highlight how one nailed its character, managing an ensemble cast, and the stakes and the whole. How one show nailed it, and the other had nothing but mistakes and missed stakes. Taking care of your timeline is crucial when it comes to storytelling. Even more, making sure that the steps on your timeline are logical and flow smoothly from one to the other is, in my opinion, the most crucial step to sustaining a long-term audience in storytelling. If the steps on your timeline don't follow a because of or but this happened nature to it and is more of a and then this showed up timeline, if the logic isn't tracking, it's not going to be satisfying for your audience to watch. I tee this all up because Stranger Things set up one hell of a cliffhanger at the end of season 4. The Upside Down is coming to Hawkins. You quote-unquote killed Max to set this table up for your final season, and then, surprise, no table! Oh no, I'm sorry. The table is still technically there. They just put a giant metal band-aid over their problem! Welcome to Derry has freedom in the fact that it begins not directly following anything from the known timeline of events. Its challenge was A, making sense when it finishes within the established canon of the films, and B, still manage to tell a story worth telling while the future's known. But the reason I love this writing room, and Welcome to Derry, being my favorite thing of anything of recent memory, is because the writers knew that in world, the question of why is this in the past doesn't need to be answered. The characters don't know they're in the past. You can just tell a story. You don't have to address it. But they knew all of us nerds online would be going, yeah, this is a good show and all, like, yeah, kill some more kids. But why is this in the past? Why should I care? So in the finale, they just reveal that Pennywise knows that this is the past, that he knows the future. Not that he's even necessarily omnipotent, but the cosmic scale of his being doesn't live a linear life. There is a time he doesn't exist That's after the Loser Clubs kills him on the timeline. That's his pre-life, post-death. His time on the timeline, when he isn't, is after the Loser Club kill him. But every other moment on the timeline is an opportunity for him to break out of the timeline. At least that's what I interpreted. Yes, he's telling the child version of Richie's mom that she's going to give birth to Richie, and Richie's going to eventually grow up to kill him. But when he has a chance to get out of his cage in this moment, that is real! Past or future, be damned. If the moment exists, Pennywise can try to capitalize it, even if he's inadvertently creating the conditions that lead to his ultimate death. So, not only did Welcome to Derry have it harder, fitting its story into the past in a way that doesn't alienate the fans of the established future canon, not only does it warrant its own existence, but it makes Pennywise even cooler somehow, and even more terrifying as this cosmic entity of fear and power, because, again, if he's on screen, he can win. It doesn't matter where on the timeline you are, and I think that is so awesome. Stranger Things had the easier job of pick up where they left off, and couldn't even do that right, let alone acknowledge it, let alone make the villain more intimidating, because of the fact they spent all of last season setting up a cliffhanger to just pretend the cliff was a little tiny hill. It didn't matter what the story they decided to replace the cliff with was. The audience wanted to see the series finale with no punches pulled. The bad guys are here. They do not care, and they couldn't even give us anything close to that, let alone anything that resembled a satisfying conclusion to your series, to your franchise, even though this isn't the conclusion because you announced a past spin-off. Who wants to take the bet that Stranger Things show in the past will be 10 times worse than its show in the past? Because I'm taking that bet every day. That's easy money. That's free money. Stranger Things waffled its timeline so badly that it waffled its fan expectations so badly. Sure, in world, the military could patch the holes. Sure, the holes that are breaking through reality, put some sheet metal on that. Like, logically, in world, that could be the military's response to what happens. But metatextually, writer's room-wise, what was the point of making Vecna's plan for a whole season to come to the real world if you weren't going to follow it up? And now, a quick rundown of Stranger Things and how it's established its stakes over its run. Season 1, Will goes missing, Barb heckin' dies. There's one Demogorgon, but one is enough, because what is that? Season 2, Demodogs. There's more. The vine things, the tunnels. The threat to their world is getting bigger. The Upside Down is coming in higher volumes to the real world, coming to get you. Bob dies, good character pain. Billy's introduced, good micro-antagonistic force. Season 3, The Rats, The Flesh Pile, really good gross-out horror, shows the evil force continuing to grow and affect the real world. This is the closest thing we get to the Mind Flayer in real life. Billy dies, again, good stakes, good emotion, good stuff. Season 4, a face! A voice, a real big bad who is snapping bones, killing people, ripping holes through reality. From great stuff. The ramp up you went from one Demogorgon to literally a hole in reality. This is the curve, the exponential curve of stakes you've been building up over your story run. And then season 5. The Upside Down just isn't a threat to Hawkins anymore. It's all just Vecna now, and not even in a cool way. He's not attacking in the angrily and reckless way because he just got his goddamn ass kicked. No. He's attacking in the let me gaslight and kidnap some kids into my mindscape so I can use them as weird psychic vessels way, so I can destroy the Upside Down between the new dimension we haven't mentioned at all yet. Way, that's the way you're gonna have your stakes continue to ramp up, by confusing us with a bunch of new world lore and no actual increase in physical threatening stakes? Like, see, where did all this Abyss stuff come from? Did they just want the scene of getting the science teacher in the Upside Down, and they're like, well, we gotta get the monsters out of the Upside Down because there's no way he wouldn't die if he... I don't know. The thing that hurts me the most is you have all these time between seasons. You could have used that time to write your finale if you remembered where you left off last season. Vecna just got his ass kicked, and he is portals open to Earth. You don't think he would be going scorched Earth? You don't think that's what the fans want to see? Over your series run, the Upside Down has gone from an uncharted territory filled with sleep paralysis demon ecosystems where a wrong step would alert the whole animal kingdom where Derry was to literally an afterthought. They just strolling around in there with the science teacher! Season 5 spits in Season 4! In Season 4, this would not have made sense and half of everyone would die just because they stepped on the wrong vine! There's literally a scene of someone peeing on the Upside Down. If this is not the perfect representation for how you think the writer's room felt about the Upside Down and keeping track of the world they were building, I don't know. He literally takes a piss on it. Yeah, technically, like, it hit the marks of the big final season. The gang goes to Vecna's lair, they fight. But the environmental whiplash of a whole new dimension, for what? What was the point of it if there was going to be no demogorgons, no bats, no dogs in there? If it was just going to go to the weird little flesh heart where Vecna was living, why couldn't that have been in the Upside Down? What was the point of the 10 years of building the scale and the threat of this different dimension just for you to go, forget about that dimension. We have a whole new dimension. And you know that sleep paralysis demon ecosystem we've been building up? They're gone. How is that satisfying at all? Not to mention they pump fake the Wheeler's death and the horrible cut to black on the radio tower and wasting all that time with more pump fake deaths in the goof room to not even understand what the hell an unproposal is in its debut episode. Welcome to Derry runs laps around Stranger Things, not only in its cold open and the death of Maddie, but oh my god, the theater massacre. They spent a whole episode building up these cute kids and then just massacred them. They got them like fish. God damn. And then you open the next episode with a flashback of the same scene from the sole survivor's eyes. Like, how can you not feel the stakes, the pressure, the imminent danger around any corner of the world these characters are living in? I was scared for everyone at every point. Because if they are willing to butcher a room of cute kids in episode 1, who won't they kill? Welcome to Derry made sure you knew that no one was safe. Whereas Stranger Things was doing the most to hope you thought no one was safe. One show was very upfront about its stakes and intentions, while the other was doing everything it could to pretend its stakes were something they weren't prepared to commit to. Like, seriously, just kill someone, please, so we can feel like people are in danger. The plot armor is so apparent in this show. Demogorgons are running through the military base, slaughtering everybody, and Mike, Derek, and like the rest of the 6th graders are just walking around fine. They don't even get like jump scared. The only time I've ever seen a franchise have its cake and eat it too, as far as keeping everybody alive, was Twilight. And spoiler warning for the last movie, but they have this big confrontation at the end. Girl shows bad guy his future of him losing, but in the vision of him losing, it's a whole fight. Heroes die in brutal ways, villains die in brutal ways. They show a whole fight just for it to be like, you don't want to do that. And he's like, I don't want to do that. He walks away. What I'm getting at with this is, imagine if Eleven and Kali teamed up. They did some big illusion thing to trick Vecna that he was fighting the heroes of Hawkins. You see the vision that Vecna's being shown of him killing everybody, yada yada yada. You hide the fact it's illusion from the audience, maybe, so the audience still gets the shock of seeing Vecna rip all these people to shreds, but that illusion is what's buying them time to get into Vecna's lair to actually fight him. At the bare minimum, you've just showed that them simulating to Vecna's mind their fight, Vecna still kills half of them. So then when you're showing them walk into this room, maybe you actually feel scared for them. Even when there's a giant kaiju monster in front of them, we don't feel scared for them. As far as I see it, there's 3 main types of conflict to balance in good storytelling. That's character versus character, or your interpersonal conflicts. That's character versus goal, your own character's ambition, and the self-conflicts they have trying to achieve that goal. And obviously your character versus obstacle, that'd be the villain or the answer to whatever problem your hero's facing. The better your show or whatever kind of story you're telling can balance these types of conflict, the more engaging it will be. For me, Welcome to Derry is peak fiction because each of the characters have an individual goal. The military is to find Pennywise. The kids are trying to survive / find Maddie. Pennywise is trying to get his eats in his hibernation cycle. Later, he's trying to escape his cage upon opening. The character goals are always very dynamic. The characters fight amongst themselves. Major Hanlon and his wife crash ideologically. Gee, why did I write that down? ideologically on how to operate in the racially charged setting of Derry. Lily and Ronnie beef each other for half of the season because Lily telling the cops the truth about Pennywise would free Ronnie's dad. That's what Ronnie wants. But Lily telling the cops would send her to the psych ward, so she's not telling the cops. And it creates a conflict between them two, and it's really compelling character stuff. Compare this to Stranger Things. What's the closest thing Stranger Things has to this? To an interpersonal conflict. Jonathan and Steve peacocking over Nancy, I guess? Dustin and Steve's emotional conflict worked fine. I like that stuff, but it came out of nowhere. It was short, it was sweet, and there's hints everywhere of real character moments in this show, but they're never given the weight, let alone the build-up they needed before, which leaves a lot of the Stranger Things ensemble feeling goalless or hollow or too similar in their goals to other characters. Think about the layers of conflict that could have been shown in the hospital scene where Lucas has to choose between keeping the music on to hopefully bring Max back to life or turning the music off to save his own life as he's being hunted by demodogs. That's such an interesting dilemma to put one of your characters in, but instead you have Karen Wheeler Machina, and you don't even acknowledge the lesbians in the room, and like so many layers of who your characters are, the situations that they're in, the pressure of the situations that they're in just gets skipped over. And of course, both shows' obstacles are their respective villains. But Vecna's plan is convoluted, unexplained, and not even remotely threatening to the characters in the world, let alone concerning to the viewer that the villain just may succeed. Well, I guess Conformity Gate did convince a bunch of viewers that the villain did succeed, but that was due to awful writing, not good writing. Pennywise is a cosmically large guy with simple inspirations. It's very easy for the viewer to comprehend. Eat, survive, maybe escape Derry if the opportunity presents it. Not even that, but Pennywise's whole shtick is that he wants his victims as scared as possible. So when a character survives an early season close encounter with Pennywise, the character hasn't succeeded in fending off the villain. Pennywise has succeeded in seasoning his next meal. That makes Pennywise feel like way more of a threat. When Vecna fails at any point of his plan, he has no reason to fail. Unlike Pennywise, even though in the show, like you want to build up your characters, you have to give them a scare, but Pennywise is letting them live intentionally. If the character slipped through Vecna's fingers, it's not intentional. It's because he's a poorly written bad guy. Vecna isn't trying to keep anybody alive. He doesn't care if they fear him more. So when he rips out Karen Wheeler's intestines on the floor and she lives, that is missed stakes. How are we going to feel worried for the main characters if a side character isn't even going to get offed by the main bad guy and his main henchman? Pennywise attacks Ronnie and traumatizes her with her survivor's guilt from her mother's death during childbirth, taunts her that she's going to get her other friends killed too. Epic, deliciously raised stakes while also telling us more about Ronnie as a character. Do you see the difference in how these two shows built up their villains, or do you want me to keep going? That's a trick question. I'm going to move on to the next thing. A good story needs every character's goals to A, be driven by personality, not by plot, and B, be equally or reasonably achievable to the other character's goals and ambitions. Any imbalance in such creates dissatisfying payoffs to those goals. The Kids of Hawkins' goals always felt achievable and aligned with the antagonistic force's goals because the antagonist was infiltrating Hawkins. They were coming to the kids' home turf, a level playing field, because their human flaws are made up for by the fact that they have home turf. But in season 5, their goal is to simply find Vecna. And it's only the Holly story that puts them in Vecna's direction anyway. Even then, he's a whole other dimension away, and you have the heroes going to him. Technically, their conflict is of the same thing. They want to free the kids. Vecna wants the kids, but it's not personal. The conflict isn't personal. They're not going because they know Vecna's evil. They're going to stop what Vecna's doing. Do you hear what there's no personality to the stake. Vecna isn't going after them because they just put a shotgun blast in him. No, they're going after Vecna because Vecna's evil. The conflict of interest over the kids, fine, but conflict of interests don't feed good character moments. the goals still have to be fueling the conflict of interest. And Vecna's goals seem so untied to the main cast of characters until enough time has passed in the season. I guess we should get them involved in the Vecna story now, guys. That's what it felt like in the writing. It felt like they were living two different worlds. Vecna is 2 dimensions away on a completely different cosmic scale of power, trying to slam dimensions together, and then you just have the humans trying to find him. Do you see the imbalance? The lack of interplay between types of conflict, let alone the conflicts given being anything interesting, fed Stranger Things' disappointing landing. I still can't believe they just didn't follow up their cliffhanger and do battle for Hawkins. Seriously, what on earth made y'all do a time jump to start the season? What was going through your minds? Stranger Things feels like, because it was, an unwritten mess where Welcome to Derry is able to balance each character's wants in a way that creates conflict while also balancing the threat level and place in world of its villains' goals. Both shows share parallels in the factions they represent. There is the military, the heroes, and the villain. Now, the more interplay you have between these factions, the more conflicts you have between each individual faction, the better your story should be. The more layers within factions, the different opinions or stances that factions can take, the changing of their goals is what makes the world feel real and alive. Welcome to Derry has each of the factions acting in their own self-interest. Pennywise wants to eat, the military wants to find and free Pennywise, and the kids want to survive and save their missing friends. But Welcome to Derry has layers to its conflict within factions. In both shows, besides physically being there in world, the military doesn't particularly threaten the town. If anything, Stranger Things would win that point, as they have a more active military presence in Hawkins. Yet, General Shaw's military felt like way more of a threat level to its world than whatever we got to see Eleven reacting to Sarah Connor doing, because we witness active conflict within Shaw's military. When Major Hanlon finally figures out Shaw's plan to free Pennywise, he pulls a goddamn gun on the man, and Shaw still gets his way. That one scene showed that Shaw 100% knows what he's doing is wrong. He's gonna do it anyway, and he'll sacrifice his own men and morals and good people to achieve it rather than, 11 is so special, go get her for me. Like, from the jump, the viewers know the military is just there to chase the good guys around, and so that the writers can have some meatbags to actually kill. In Welcome to Derry, even before Shaw's true intentions are known, knowing the military is sniffing around Pennywise, obviously over their head, on top of the what the hell is the real plan, that keeps the viewer on the edge of their seat every step of the way, especially once the cat's out of the bag. Stranger Things military just creates more questions than they answer. It just leaves you feeling confused. Why is their base in the Upside Down? Hey, Vecna, are they actively working with you because 11 is your common end? No? Okay, then, so why were you just letting them have free rent in the dimension you were running your evil plan from last season? Regardless, why would the military see any value in this base in the first place if they are there for 11 blood things and not demo flavor things? Not only does Welcome to Derry's military provide more satisfying engagement for the viewer, but the members of it actually feel like, I don't know, people? I literally don't know this lady's name, and I'm not gonna Google it, okay? Is her name Dr. K, or is that just the healthy gamer therapist I'm thinking of? It's my best guess. I think her name's She's so unforgettable, I don't know her name! Anyway, the midpoint of both seasons of TV is the first time that all the factions are present in the same place at the same time. Welcome to Derry's triangle acts like a free-for-all, with each party's interests actively hurting or helping parties they weren't intending to. If the military weren't after Pennywise, then the doped-up kids in the sewer would surely be clown food. Lily she would have never found the dagger. But if the kids weren't there, Polly wouldn't have died, Hanlon could have maybe continued his mission or whatever, Pennywise could have defeated the military, they could have found a pillar, or the fact that all the factions were present were actively interfering or aiding another member of the Triangle's goals at all times. Stranger Things uses its moment of faction meetup not as a chance for interplay, no. The military, literally within seconds of capturing the good guys, gets third-partied by Vecna. The writing room is incapable of having layers to their conflict. Oh my god! The only reason Stranger Things would ever have all three of these factions in one scene at the same time would be to use the military as meat shields for the heroes. What does the military even do in this show? I'm asking you, tell me in the comments, please. They are the most reactionary / where the plot needs them insert I have ever seen. And again, this is such an egregious sin because this is your last season and you are wasting it with half-cooked, not seasoned slop! And you had the battle for Hawkins right in front of you! Both shows finally and firmly establish everybody's goals, all the factions' goals at the midpoint, where the factions are finally all present. And this is where fanficador is going to take over for Stranger Things because, oh my god, Stranger Things. And I'm going to use Welcome to Derry as my blueprint, as my inspiration for this rewrite, and you tell me how I did. Okay, Vecna just showed his face. He still steals the kids of fate, whatever. Will was able to lock in and save everyone from dying. Who would have thought? Wipes his nose, cut to black. Instead of having every member of the military conveniently lying slumped on the ground while the main characters remain unscathed to start the next episode, imagine if the military was able to recognize, oh my god, we just got wiped out in a matter of seconds. Portals from another dimension were opening everywhere, and that was all before Vecna showed up. I am pitching the second half of Stranger Things Season 2, or volume, whatever. The second half of Stranger Things being the military and the heroes of Hawkins teaming up to take on Vecna and the other dimensions threatening them. Do they have beef? Sure, but they have human beef. Whatever they want from 11 can wait till the Vecna problem is dealt with. Imagine how much more of a threat the Upside Down and Vecna would feel if the faction that's been gunning for our heroes for 5 seasons decides to have the team up with them to stop it. I picture Episode 8, the second to last episode of Stranger Things, entirely is war between human faction and the antagonist. The military and the heroes going to the Upside Down, fighting Vecna. This way, with the military, you still have people to slaughter in the final confrontation if you want to keep your heroes alive, which sure would still feel hollow, but would be better than literally everyone coming out unscathed. Wrap up all your supernatural stuff, your Vecna killing blow, and your escape from the abyss Upside Down in that second to last episode. Then in episode 9, wrap it up with the military. Do you want them to agree to be friends now that Vecna's gone? Or are they still gonna pine after 11 and you can do one more big fight scene before spending half the runtime of the finale on your meandering epilogue? That's my hardly fleshed out idea, but I still think that achieves more for making your stakes felt than wasting the second half of your season on Holly's round trip to and from Vecna's mind prison. The way Welcome to Derry, second to last episode, 100% feels like a season finale with the stakes, the violence, the set pieces, and that the anti just can't get upped. And then they up it. That was the sentiment I was approaching this idea with. Right? They have this big season finale feeling episode second to last. That's where you have the military converge with the heroes, attack Vecna, humanity versus non-humanity. And then in your final episode, spend half the runtime on humanity versus humanity. And then give it to the kids being kids and everybody's happy endings and stuff. But the goddamn duffers. What do we expect? It honestly feels like the Duffers wrote out the 3 different volumes of Season 5 as separate installments. You know what I mean? They did not serve each other at all. They hardly felt smooth from one to the other. The factions are underused. The conflicts are half-assed. Not to mention the forgotten cliffhanger of Season 4 this all started with. Yeah, it just feels hollow. Again, I feel so bad for actual fans of Stranger Things who were waiting for the epic finish to their campaign. Instead, they got an unwritten catastrophe, which is worse than was spending an entire season trying to convince its audience it was trying to build to something it very well knew wasn't going to be there. I didn't make this video with the intention to rip on Stranger Things. I made this video to gush over Welcome to Derry. That's a show that actually cares about its own world, timeline, sense of tangible, believable reality, and cares about the fans beyond what's in their wallets. Stranger Things had 10 years of build-up, marketing, years between seasons, and a layup storyline to follow, and still fumbled the bag. While Welcome to Derry overcame the more difficult timeline fit and satisfying its most passionate fans. One show leaves you wanting more, when you already know the future. The other makes you groan that there's more, when this was supposed to be it. Anyway, yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. If you haven't watched Welcome to Derry, watch it. Don't give your money to Netflix. I don't think they deserve it. Yeah. Bye. Hey, thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below on either Stranger Things last season, or your thoughts on Welcome to Derry, or your thoughts on them compared to one each other, if you've seen them both. I'm a big fan of Welcome to Derry. I love what they did with Pennywise knowing his stuff about the future. My prediction is hopefully in the past he can somehow break out of the cycle, and then we can get a new movie in theaters of Pennywise on a new timeline, in a new version of modern day. Either way, the storytelling potential is unlimited with Welcome to Derry, and I just found it so fascinating that a show in the past was doing laps around a series finale with years of build-up and millions of dollars of funding. But anyway, that's all. I hope you enjoyed. Please hit some buttons, because I would rather do this than the real world. It doesn't cost you a dime, but making these videos costs me my time. Anyway, goodbye. Love you. Mwah.